My name is Richard Patton. I'm an animal nutritionist, and the essence of my 8 to 5 day is that I take technical information from the universities or other learned sources and repackage it for consumption by the lay people. The people, meaning the people that would use it to make money in their business. So my clientele is here in the States, agriculture, zoos, pet food, horses. Internationally, it would be foreign governments, agriculture. My writing has tended to be aimed at accomplishing that objective of tech transfer, where a company that manufactures a particular feed for animal consumption would engage me to explain to the layperson, the consumer, the biochemistry of why that works, how it works. An example would be a chelated mineral versus a inorganic mineral. For example, chelated copper versus copper sulfate. You know, I don't believe that there's a right or wrong answer to this, and from the absolute beginning of my career, I've been conflicted about it. For example, back in the dark ages when I was finishing my graduate work, the school of thought was review the literature and then write up your work. There were those who said with all sincerity, don't go near the literature, write up your work first, then review the literature. And there was merit in that advice. And I think that you must always look at it that way and strike a balance between those two things. And I guess indeed that's the way I've done it. I apply the scientific process in that I form a hypothesis and then I try and disprove it. And I have where I'm going, and I set out to gather information to prove it, but I'm always looking for the chink in the armor. Because when you finally are out there with chiseled in stone forevermore, have you embarrassed yourself? And the process that I use is, as I just related, decide where I'm going. And then go there and look for things that support that I'm on the right track. This is, of course, for better and for worse, dramatically shifted in my career. Whereas at the outset, you basically went to the library, and that library didn't have it. It was a 3-week wait till you got it from another library that did. With the, you know, the situation we have nowadays of the computer accessing anything, you really have to decide what's enough. When have I gathered enough? You can pick up a thread that will lead you, you know, off a cliff. And so one thing I've noticed is that since I first started technical writing, and between when I last did, which was a year or two ago, editors have said only 3 references and for a given point. Whereas in the past, the attitude was the more work you can cite that validates your point, the better. And editors now say, hey, look, show that you're not the only one. Give us a maximum of 3 references. Get on to the next point. And so this, I think, is a reflection of the fact that access to references are greater. I'm being dragged into the modern age defensively rather than, you know, in a forthright manner. I tend to look first of all in the journals within my field, which is animal science, dairy science, and related journals. And dairy science is actually very well rated as a source, as a journal. But long ago I realized you can find a reference to support any point you want to take.
Even in the journals?
Anything. You can find a referee journal validation of your point. And so you can have a process, and you can be about it, and you should, following your process. But in the end, I operate on the premise that science is a process, and it never ends. It's an ever-widening darkness. And your obligation is to get it out there as carefully thought out as possible and get it discussed. The real danger is the people with good thinking that get ignored due to the dogma and the power structure that's out there. And we see this time and again in the history of science. Brilliant, correct ideas that are shoved aside for decades or lifetimes. And the other thing that informs my writing is, and my work, is I don't want history to look at me one day and consider me no different than the physician that bloodlet George Washington to death. You know, I want to apply the best thinking there is, but I don't want to just accept it. Atkins, with his diet, was shoved aside by everybody, Congress included, and he was correct. He's correct. And you see this time and again. You follow the website concept and you get to Wikipedia. And Wikipedia is great, but it's also a minefield. What if the day you got there, the latest information was the next day disproved? I think what we're trying to do with our writing is inform decisions, and with the best thinking available, and with the recognition that that same decidement in the future will be informed with more and better information. I'm the last one that I would use as a guide for anybody in that regard. If it's like a literature review of an obscure topic, but you round up 100 papers, I file them alphabetically. I have a bellows folder. Those papers are filed by the lead author's name alphabetically. And I presume this is archaic. Nowadays, kids probably have files, alphabetical files. And they highlight the things that I, in my plodding old way, would underline. And those papers, on the front of them is a summary of the points that I think are critical. And
that you've written, or that's
no, that I've extracted from those papers, because just about every book, magazine article, research paper reduces to 3 or 4 sentences at maximum. And what I found is the thing you must guard against is so many papers are driven by the need to this publish or perish mentality, and there's a lot of papers that really don't make a contribution, and the authors and their managers or bosses and the dean all want publications, and a lot of times there's things that make it that belong in the journal of non-results, but they're pitched it with a happy face on them. And when you carefully read them, they don't make a contribution. They just don't get in your review, for example. They don't get into your thinking. They don't influence where you're going. You don't cite them as supporting a point or not. I have a place where I'm going, which I keep saying, and you build that story, it's highly structured for you in a referee journal article. And I'm not sure that that approach is, it's almost the reverse of what you use for a magazine article. And also when you're translating technical information for non-technical consumption. You don't want to begin with a literature review and then materials and methods and then results and discussion. But taking the technical thing first, there's a place where I want to go, and so I will select journal articles that show who's worked in this field before, what did they find, what questions did they set up, and then why are we doing this research, which of course is always included in the title. What question did you ask, what answer did you look for? If you're writing for anything other than a journal, more and more so, you're forced to go with the what I call the super paint billboard. 6 words is all you have to, the only time you have on this speeding vehicle to read to get your message about. If your 6 words don't grab them, they're not going to read the first paragraph. If they don't do that, they're not going to read the article. And so you have to still come across as the pointy head, but then you got to take advantage of the psychology that's in their culture, that they've been kind of browbeat to accepting. Is if the first 5 words don't grab me, you know, what's your next headline? And so it's really difficult to be a scientific writer and still have a voice. You see, the scientific process is lost in the dust here. The scientific process is not complete until the work is duplicated in an independent lab. Nobody does this anymore. Everybody says, well, they did that. I don't want to do that. I'm going to do this. I want to blaze my own trail. And nobody's going to take their precious funds and spend them duplicating what's already been done and getting it published. And so what we've got really is in many ways is a shadow of the scientific process. It's, you know, publish and get on. Nobody's validating work, nobody's duplicating work. Who else has done this? The answer is nobody. I wouldn't have done it if someone else had done it. I'm new. I'm visionary, you know. And so this is where we get back to the Wikipedia thing finally being good. Because Wikipedia is a condensation of the scientific game, which is a process. It's ongoing. It never ends. And that's why I like Wikipedia, because, you know, it's ultimately your own jury. I know of, not to digress here, but
no, that's fine.
I know of
This is relevant.
an organization that is called the Contemporary Long Rifle Association. And these are guys that make reproduction of antique guns. And they have an annual gathering, and you put your product on the wall for all to see. And they decided, well, we got to jury this, because we're going to have clunkers put on the wall. And they decided not to. And every year you can watch some newcomer bring in his gun, all puffed up and proud, put it on the wall, and then go look at the others, and then go back and take his down. It juries itself, and that's what Wikipedia does. And I like what that says about human ambition. You know, that you're motivated by what's been done by others, and the motivation to do that and better comes from within. You don't want to go through life being a devout skeptic, but I think you do want to understand that a lot of things may be just perpetuated lies, like weapons of mass destruction.